just 1 minute after. Should we start?
Yep.
Okay, so for joining our webinar on the IMMANA Fellowships. So I'm Will Masters. What we're going to do is introduce ourselves here in Boston, and I will share a slide deck that we have prepared for you, which provides some background information about the IMMANA Fellowships program. I hope all of you have had a chance to read what's on the website, and this will reflect what you've seen on the website. And then after the presentation of what's on the slides, what I'd like to do is to invite each of you to introduce yourselves and ask questions, make comments, thoughts that you have about the program, your applications, others you might know who would be interested in joining. Let me just confirm that the format is working okay. So Holly, if you look at what you would see as a participant or others who are on the call, I'll be able to hear you if you let me know if the picture is what you expect to see. That is, you should see the slides and you might see an inset of the video with me. Is that working correctly?
Should be for everyone.
To share the screen.
Yes. Yeah, it looks like everyone's responding that it is working.
Excellent.
So.
Very good. All right. Well, thanks again for joining. So, Hallie, do you want to introduce yourself first, since you're the person people will interact with the most?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Hallie Perlick. I am the Fellowships Administrator based here at Tufts University in Boston, Massachusetts, in the U.S. with Will, who is our Fellowships Director, and together we administer this Fellowships program as part of the IMMANA program based out of the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine.
Excellent, thanks. Yeah, and doing an amazing job of keeping lots of balls in the air, lots of moving parts in this project. So I'm Will Masters. I've been involved in IMMANA since the original discussions with UKAID, with the UK Department for International Development that's created this program and supports it through the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, which administers most of what's in the A&H Academy, the overall umbrella organization in which IMMANA operates, and in particular this fellowship program operates.
Sorry. Can everyone hear us? We're getting some...
So if you can hear us, could you just let us know you can? And I'm just going to type, if you cannot hear.
We can hear you. It's quite clear, Will.
Excellent. Okay, good.
Okay. So for folks who are not able to hear us, perhaps logging out and logging back in.
Yeah, so can you just type that? Great. So I hope folks who cannot hear are able to see the chat box. That's a challenge. So what we've done with this webinar to explain the fellowships program is to try to reach out to everyone working at this interface of agriculture, nutrition, and health to build research careers. So the fellowship program aims to build careers that will apply and now particularly validate the new ways of measuring what's happening between agriculture and nutrition to improve population health in Africa, South Asia, and other low and middle income countries. So you might know that the first 4 rounds of this, from 2015 to 2019, those were clearly early career. Those were postdoctoral awards for individuals within 3 years of receiving their doctorate. Our new rounds, starting with this cycle, round 5, and then for 3 more after that, could be at any stage, because the field has matured a great deal and many methods and metrics have been piloted, have been used in a number of different settings, maybe once, maybe twice, but are opportunities for validation and application where a given metric, some kind of indicator or index or specific way of quantifying something of interest that hasn't yet been measured very well, that could be validated and published to be disseminated and used. Research uptake is our goal, to have these metrics used by policy and program decision makers in governments, in development agencies, in civil society, people who would be able to use these measurement methods to guide some sort of agriculture nutrition action. The program name is IMMANA. We mean that. Our goal is innovative methods and metrics, not understanding in general, but rather ways of calculating and comparing and guiding action for agriculture and nutrition to improve population health. So our new transition in the fellowships program is to open to all stages of research careers, but we're still very, very keen on postdocs, even people who finish their PhDs just before starting, but also middle career individuals. The design is deliberately quite specific in that it's only 1 year, only 12 months. But it's very open in every other way. In particular, it can start any time between June and December, so the second half of a calendar year. So in this case, the second half of 2020. And we provide support for the individual, intended to be full-time activity, plus some funds for travel, and a home mentor, who's typically the home institution where you're coming from. So you may be employed in a university, in a non-governmental organization or a government agency, and you might have a mentor in your environment where you're coming from, and a host mentor, meaning someone who can help you where you're going both conceptually or in terms of methods and analytical tools, or geographically, meaning a host mentor in the place where you want to go and work during your fellowship year. The aim of the fellowship year is to collect a little bit of data, or possibly also a little bit more methodological advancement, and then time for writing so that a manuscript will be submitted for publication within the program year. That is absolutely crucial. Our aim is validation and dissemination, meaning the submission of a manuscript. So your proposals fundamentally need to be oriented around what is the metric or method that's going to be validated with some additional data, some additional analytics or statistical or qualitative analysis, and then the writing of the actual manuscript, which is often very time-consuming and challenging, and one of the main value-added opportunities that the fellowship offers. So this is open to any field of study. People with a doctorate in agronomy or veterinary sciences, animal sciences, or plant pathology, plant protection, entomology, and so forth, as well as public health, nutrition, people who are interested in and have a doctorate in medicine or any health related field, as well as social sciences. So people in agricultural economics or history and sociology and other fields are certainly welcome to apply. We do have a geographic restriction, only one geographic restriction, which is that one of the two mentors should be physically located in Africa or Asia. And the purpose of that restriction is to ensure that there is a geographic rootedness to the project. The project can occur anywhere in the world, but one of the two mentors should be primarily located in either Africa or Asia. We, of course, aim for demographic balance in terms of gender ratios, in terms of every other type of representation. We are very keen to build a portfolio of fellows who are contributing to agriculture, nutrition, health across the wide range of types of origins that people come to this program, to this field, to the agriculture, nutrition, health field, and specifically to the Agriculture, Nutrition, Health Academy. We do have an institutional focus to some degree. It's not an exclusive focus, but it's certainly an aspiration, is that the A&H Academy will be an academy. It will be about teaching and research, and the institutions that are most squarely devoted to that mission are, of course, colleges and universities. And we believe that this domain will be firmly rooted in an authentically local understanding of what's happening in your countries, in your locations, only through the colleges and universities in those locations. So we're very, very interested in applicants who are coming from colleges and universities, who are faculty members or could be faculty members in those often emerging, often quite young, recently founded universities. Not only the main campuses of national flagship universities such as Makerere in Uganda, but also secondary universities and other institutions of higher education throughout Africa and South Asia. So what are our criteria for selection? I'm going to share a little more information about the program and then invite each of you to introduce yourselves and say a little bit about the degree to which you think you might fit this vision. So the vision is that a candidate, through their initial concept note, which we'll give you feedback on, and then the full proposals, that through that proposal you can demonstrate commitment and a potential for excellence in research that crosses the institutional and disciplinary boundaries that have often limited the ability of research to address agriculture, nutrition, health relationships. So what that means is that you've done something in the past achievement, career trajectory, as well as the goals you set out in your proposal that say, I have demonstrated excellence in one or multiple fields, and I've shown interest in moving beyond that to look at the linkages between agriculture, meaning crops and livestock, or food systems and dietary intake and nutrition and health outcomes from that. I've shown interest in moving beyond my original field, but I've demonstrated excellence in that field. So excellence is demonstrated typically through publication and having contributed to research, right? People show that they understand the frontier of research by having published in it. So we expect that most successful applicants will have at least some successful track record of publication already, and then through other career path achievements demonstrated that they're at the frontier of the kinds of work that they're doing. We expect a work plan which is realistic, which has high quality, which has feasibility, so that points specifically to existing data. So the proposal must spell out very precisely what data you already have. If you're starting from a standing start, if you do not have existing data, it is almost certain that you will not be able to publish a paper, submit for publication a competitive, successful paper within the calendar year. So you need to come into this fellowship year with some data, some analysis that needs to be done that would take roughly a year to bring to real fruition, and have a manuscript for submission within the calendar year. Sorry, within the 12 months of the year. We expect that research to be novel, to be important, and to be potentially useful for guiding actual actions. So if the method or metric is something that's of purely curiosity-driven scientific interest, that's lovely, but it's not for this project. For this particular IMMANA program, you must be guiding, we want our research to be guiding agriculture nutrition actions. That's the name of the program, that's our point. And so the proposal must specify what are the policy instruments, that is the actions of governments, or the program design choices, the strategies, the actions that might be informed by the metric or method that you're validating and applying. And we aim for our fellows to build strong career paths of leadership in this domain. We believe that researchers have an opportunity, and in many cases a kind of obligation, to serve the governments, the development agencies, and the international organizations, the local civil society organizations that allow research to be supported by the public and to pay dividends to the public in the form of better policy. So we hope that our fellows will have demonstrated an interest in and an ability to play a leadership role within their research organizations and potentially beyond those. And finally, we recognize that no one does research alone. There's no such thing as individual. This is an individual award to a person, but every person to be successful must have a community around them that's supportive. And so the proposal should demonstrate quite clearly to the selection panel that their mentors and their institutions are committed to this person and their research. If you have never met your mentor, it's possible to have a strong letter of commitment from that mentor, even if you've never met them. But we must receive a strong commitment from that person, and a credible commitment that we really believe suggests that that person will interact with you as a fellow over the course of the year, often enough to guide your work in the directions that will achieve the goals of IMMANA. So these are the criteria for selection. I think many of you will see yourselves right away in this, and if you are attentive, you'll have doubts. So I hope you'll ask questions about the degree of fit here for yourself or for others you might know, and never let doubts hold you back, but do let doubts guide your thinking, right? So you want to be self-confident, but also self-critical. Think, okay, what can I do to improve? What do I need to change about the way I'm describing or thinking about what I should do? And we really hope that this fellowship program guides people in a powerfully useful direction, even for individuals who are not selected, because writing this proposal is itself a useful thing. And talking now is itself a useful thing to guide careers towards what we believe are very, very high productivity opportunities for work today. So the timeline here is we have just launched the call with our new emphasis on validation and publication within the fellowship year. We'll be giving feedback on these concept notes through December, and then the full proposals are due in February. The form for the full proposals will be posted in a couple of weeks? Maybe?
Yeah, by December 1st.
So at that point, you would be able to start entering information in the submittable portal, and it will look very much like the concept note submission portal, but have quite a bit more detail as spelled out in the full call. We'll be having a selection committee review those proposals and score them. Meeting in this review committee will meet in March, and we'll be submitting a slate of 6 aiming to have this geographic and other forms of diversity for each individual round. So round 5 of 6 individuals, we'll submit that to approval for the steering committee, an international panel of experts, and the steering committee of the IMMANA program as a whole, which consists of representatives from a wide range of institutions that are helping to guide the IMMANA program and make sure that it responds to the interests of governments and development agencies and civil society around the world. So if successful, candidates would be notified in May and would be then able to start their project as early as mid-June all the way till into December. And so there's quite a bit of flexibility about start times for individuals who have existing obligations that would end at some point in the second half of the year. So what do we offer for fellows? On the start date of your fellowship, an initial payments to cover living expenses and some travel. Your work plan that you submit in your proposal might involve spending the entire 12 months in a different location. It might involve going back and forth to a different location, and it might involve going at one time for 2 to 4 months or 6 months to that other location. It is entirely the fellow's responsibility to propose a work plan, including travel, that is realistic and as productive as possible for that person. So every individual is unique in terms of the opportunities they have, and we want you to think about those opportunities and then actually take advantage of them through this program, which gives you just very unusual flexibility in how you spend the funds. So the funds are dispersed as a electronic transfer to the bank account you specify, and we do not ask for receipts. We ask for quarterly reports of accomplishments. That's very different. We're not reimbursing your expenses. We are enabling you to achieve milestones which you've set out in your proposal, which you then report on as a fellow each quarter, where each quarterly report typically says, here was my plan, and here's how I deviated from that plan for this or that reason. So the plans are extremely important to say in your proposal, I expect to travel at this date and do this thing and collect these data and do this analysis in order to submit this manuscript. But then each quarterly report and email interaction and video calls during the fellowship year allow you to improvise around that and adjust and adapt and change what you do in order to seize opportunities. So for example, if in your initial field work you discover some new kind of data that would be even more valuable, we encourage you to take advantage of that opportunity and modify your work plan during the fellowship year. The locations of activity vary widely. There are fellows who spent their entire time in a high income setting, like one spent their entire time taking data from India and doing work on it in New York City, to be at Columbia University in New York. Other fellows are starting from one developing country and going to a different one. So for example, from Ethiopia to South Africa, or it could be vice versa, from South Africa to Ethiopia, or from Africa to Asia, and so forth. So we definitely are among the most flexible fellowship programs that we know of in terms of the way in which you accomplish the results, but very specific about what are the goals to be accomplished, namely the validation and application of a new metric and submission for publication within the year. We offer, I think, a sort of state-of-the-art level of support, meaning not too much intrusion. We don't try to tell you what to do because we don't know what you know, but we definitely try very hard to support your endeavors in every way that we can. Usually by email because that's awfully convenient, but very happy to talk on the telephone or by video call. And then we meet in person at A&H Academy Week, which will be in Malawi this year, and then in South Asia in 2021, and then webinars like this one throughout the year. So the total amount of financial support is about 50,000 British pounds, roughly 65,000 US dollars, aiming to support all travel and expenses as well as living costs for roughly full-time activity. Many fellows have some ongoing engagement during the calendar year, during the fellowship year, with some other sort of work. So for example, if you are an assistant professor or lecturer in a university setting, you might still be asked to teach one class, or you might be in a program where you're still asked to deliver some analytical support to a conference, for example. We have one fellow who's been on the program committee, the host committee for a big international conference in their country. And that is completely fine to the extent that it is a complement, that it is mutually supportive and synergistic with your own research and your own career development. Just spell out what are the other obligations that you have during the fellowship year, and you do those alongside the full-time activity that we're expecting for this level of support. And the mentor stipends are moderate but significant enough to get the mentor's attention and help them to do their work in support of your fellowship. So the recruitment goes out to many thousands of people like yourselves around the world, with any luck echoing beyond the individuals who actually see it to word of mouth and sharing within countries and across countries. We believe that really everyone with a potential to do this kind of work ought to be able to hear about the IMMANA Fellowships, we certainly hope that we've reached essentially everyone who potentially could do this kind of work. We expect to receive about 150 concept notes based on the past couple of years. Of those, perhaps something like 50 full proposals for about 5 fellowships. And we believe that that sort of ratio is about right. In other words, that among those who make the effort of writing a complete full proposal, the odds of success in some sense would be about 1 in 10. Where a key feature of this is that our proposal writing questions and our scoring rubric are very much criteria that we believe you should be applying in your own thinking about your own work, so that writing the proposal is very helpful, even if you're not one of the 1 in 10 who would actually receive the award. And of course, for those, we believe we're providing really something that's quite extraordinary, and we're very grateful to UKAID and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who joined UKAID to support this, this rounds 5 through 8 of the program. So lots of engagement with candidates, like this webinar, and other feedback. And what I'd like to do is to leave this set of illustrative topics up on the screen and invite you to just read them. You can read a lot faster than I can talk. And invite each of you to ask questions, to make comments, how you see this program, and just ask you to please introduce yourselves briefly, so we'll know who you are and where you're coming from, in terms of your discipline, your institutions, and your geographic location, what you see as opportunities and what you're perhaps concerned about or curious about, that we could share with everyone. And if you have an individual question, definitely send it by email. Happy to respond that way. If for some reason your audio does not work, you can use the chat box to ask questions. And please introduce yourselves in the chat box as well, if you do use that. And of course, you will need to unmute yourselves when you have a comment to make. I'll just let you introduce yourselves. I can see most of your names, and I'll be able to see if you're unmuted. So I see everyone who I can see is still muted. Isaac, Jennifer, you've unmuted yourselves. Carolyn, happy to hear from you.
I think I can start.
Excellent. Yes, Carolyn.
Yeah, my name is Carolyn Auma. I'm listening in from the UK at Sheffield. I just finished my PhD in July of this year. My research focused on healthiness and environmental impact of dietary behaviors of rural and urban women in Uganda. Yeah, I attended the IMMANA, the ANH Academy in 2018, where I made a presentation based on my research, and I'm basically looking to take it forward, mostly with an interest in Uganda, because that's where I've done most of my work. I guess my biggest question at this moment is regarding the publications, because I see myself as a really early career researcher, and to that effect, I'm worried because I don't have as many publications as maybe some other people have. I do have 1 publication for my PhD at the moment, and I'm working on about 3 others, but I'm not sure if they will be ready and published by the time I put in the concept note and the proposal and everything. So yeah, that's my biggest question at the moment. Well, question and worry, so to speak, but yes.
Yeah, no, that's a very good thing to be focused on, because we do want our criteria to give appropriate signals about the importance of thinking strategically about your time use in order to focus on publication, because publication is the way we do science, and so it's very, very challenging to manage time in a way that aims at publication. That being said, having succeeded once is a track record, and having material presented at A&H Academy is an important type of dissemination. And it sounds like you've done really valuable, useful things that the selection committee will say, wow, this really shows the kinds of research skills that achieve the outcomes we hope for, namely dissemination and uptake of new ideas, right? So, what you've shown is, first of all, targeting of effort, right? That you're aiming to present and to write and to do work that is useful to others and make it useful by presenting to them, and then persistence, staying with it to submit and get papers revised and ultimately accepted. But I don't think one needs, it's not a numbers game of, you need X number. It's is this person making the best use of their time? And so, you mentioned being early career, there's definitely a sense of when the selection committees are looking at what is excellence, what is achievement, it's very much based on momentum and time. And so I think every reviewer of proposals is extremely attentive to dates, right? And would say, oh, okay, this person went from Uganda to Sheffield at this date, then attended this conference, then presented here, then got this manuscript completed, and is able to say that really demonstrates the persistence and the effort that that shows promise for real achievement.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Isaac.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So my name is Isaac Agbemafle. I'm from Ghana, and then I'm finishing up my PhD from Iowa State University, and I'm currently I'm going to graduate in May 2020. So I'm currently in Ghana collecting some data on my research, to the final phase of my research. So my research is looking at using edible insects to develop baby foods for complementary feeding. So that is what I'm working on. And then I've published 2 papers out of that. And then I have a few manuscripts I'm working on. And I'm currently in the lab doing some analysis on developing the product. So I think that maybe this fellowship would be a good opportunity for me to continue testing the product in children after I've even graduated. I'm currently being funded by the USAID, but then the funding is just for me to finish my PhD. So I'm looking to generate more data from my lab work, and then I can use that for the fellowship from IMMANA. So my question mainly is that I can get a local supervisor, but then how do I get in touch with somebody like a foreign mentor to help me with my work? Especially, I don't know if the mentor has to be related to the program or it can be from anywhere.
Excellent, Isaac. Thank you. Thanks for the question. Thanks for your interest in joining. So let's start with the mentorship question, where each of you already has a network. You already have at least 1, 2, 3 other people. And so you want to build on that, build on the people who you already know. There's no special formula for attracting someone who is interested in your work and will support you. You want to identify the institutions and the people at those places who are doing the kind of work you aspire to do. And so you could have a host mentor at an institution back in Ghana, and your home mentor be from Iowa State, or vice versa. You could do it either way. And you could also go to a third location. Maybe you want to go to Benin or go to, I don't know, some other place. It would all depend on finding an individual who has a clear leadership role, who is clearly interested in supporting you. So how would you find that person? You'd start with your own contacts and ask them who they would recommend. And then you can also send a note, an email directly to people who you have not yet met and say, here's some work I've seen you have done. I admire this paper, I admire this project, and I would like to do this kind of work. I have the opportunity to apply for an IMMANA Fellowship. Here's a link explaining it. And so your email to that person would need to clearly demonstrate what you're asking them to do. And in that way, the person might be interested.
Okay. So, and then concerning the concept notes, are we supposed to apply through the portal, or we just?
Yes, please use the portal.
Okay.
Definitely use the portal for the concept notes, like as for the application.
Okay. Okay.
I do want to raise one question with others, though. So Isaac described a project in which the goal of the project is to develop a new food product, right? Insect foods, insect-based complementary foods for infants. So that's in the domain of I'm not sure what your PhD topic would be, but perhaps food science. Is that your field?
I'm doing a PhD in human nutrition and statistics.
Oh, in human nutrition. Okay. So yeah, so in the Department of Nutrition, people would be doing this sort of work, developing new products. So clearly, development of a new product is not the mission of IMMANA. The mission of IMMANA is not the development of a new infant food. There's many projects who have that goal, lots of money to prepare develop new foods, but this is not one of them. So for IMMANA, what you know, Isaac, in your special expertise, or others with their special expertise, what our goal is to develop methods and metrics that can guide agriculture nutrition actions. What that means is some indicator or index of how something is coming out of crops and livestock into diets, affecting nutrition and health, connecting agriculture to health outcomes through nutrition. So in your case, there might be something about these foods that is something you can measure in a new way. And your validation and application of that new metric would be something about infant foods that you're able to identify distinctly because of your expertise in the insect food domain.
Yeah. So I was actually looking at using like to be able to look at how to cost the diets that are coming from the edible insects for infant feeding, and then to see if there's a sustainability cost to it, as well as how much the cost of the diet analysis in looking at maybe foods from edible insects as well as foods that are from other sources, to see which of them is more sustainably less costly. So I don't know if that will fit into the IMMANA mission.
Potentially, yes. So you could be measuring how particular new foods are more or less likely to be attractive, and through the cost of diet type approach, or through other approaches that you would have. I would definitely emphasize building on your own strengths. So a crucial feature of successful applications is that they say, this is what I alone can, this is what I have a distinctive capability demonstrated through what I've done before that makes this the right next step for me, and me the right person for this project. If it's not distinctive to you, it's not a good fit. So in other words, if you are just starting, if you want to use the fellowship to first do cost of diet work, like potentially, but you have to say, insects enter this in a particular way, and here's how I can contribute to this ongoing type of work.
Can I just add something to that? Can you hear me?
Please, yes, and introduce yourself.
Yes, I will. My name is Thalia Sparling, and I'm actually a former, I'm a former IMMANA fellow, still kind of working. I'm working still with the IMMANA project, and I would just add that I get the sense also that this new round is really refocused on data that you already have, not generating new data. And what I heard in your ideas was a lot of sort of new data or new tool, and that actually a year goes by very, very quickly. So for anybody listening to this who's thinking about creating a whole new tool from scratch, I don't really think that that's the focus of these fellowships currently. or that's what I've heard from the teams. So just make sure that it's something that you can really already run with. You have some groundwork beneath you already, and that's going to make your application much more believable, I think, to the evaluators.
Absolutely, yes, very good, very helpful point. Thank you. Do others have topics? I mean,
Hi, Will. This is Kenda.
Hi, Kenda.
Hi. I have a few questions, but I'll introduce myself first. My name is Kenda Cunningham, and I have a doctoral degree from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine in public health nutrition, and I'm currently based with Helen Keller International in Kathmandu. Thanks for such a clear and great presentation to answer a lot of the questions that we had before the call. So that's really helpful. I had a few follow-up questions. One was about the host and the home institutions, as they were called in the PowerPoint. So my question on that is, the examples to date given are about universities. Is it limited to universities, or could it be civil society organizations? The other question I have relates to what Talia was mentioning, which is that my understanding from what you said is that this round of the grants is more about validating methods and metrics and trying to apply those into data sets that exist. However, the illustrative topics that are on the screen appear to be more about kind of your standard regression models in ag nutrition, and not really necessarily about methods or metrics. So I'm wondering if both are allowed and it's just preference will be given for validation studies, or if you are only seeking kind of validation studies. And then my last question is that I was wondering about doctoral students, because when I listened to the criteria that you gave, I also thought about doctoral students who are in their final 1 to 2 years and do have their data already collected, or in the process of kind of analyzing and publishing those, and if this fellowship is applicable to them, or if it requires a PhD already.
Excellent. 3 very good questions. Let's do them in reverse order. So you must have the candidate must have completed the PhD by the time they start the fellowship, but it can definitely be, in fact, our timing is designed so that a person could potentially complete their PhD in, say, September of 2020 and begin their fellowship immediately thereafter. In terms of the degree to which the illustrative topics that you see are what kind of described as a kind of conventional regression test, hypothesis test of something, as opposed to a new indicator or index or metric. Our ambition is squarely to validate and apply new methods, new indexes, new indicators, new metrics. In attempting to achieve that ambition, there's a lot of intermediate steps that often are sort of normal science, in the sense of taking some question and improving somewhat the way that people have studied that question. So our goal is to move towards improved metrics and indicators in a wide range of domains over a wide range of topic areas. The reason is that if we limited ourselves only to specific new indicators, specific new metrics or ways of measuring something, and only to the validation of those, we would have a very narrow portfolio of questions and topics and areas we could be looking at, because there's only a limited number of those that. So we're looking for creative ideas around innovative methods and metrics, broadly defined, where the clear endpoint is new measurement that informs action. But there are quite a wide range of different kinds of research activities, if you will. Target journals is another way of putting it, outlets and audiences for the, because the ANH Academy is such a broad range of stakeholders. So Kenda, I'm not sure that gives an entirely satisfactory answer to your question. The situation is fluid, right? Where from year to year, we're discovering new techniques, and we want to make sure that our eyes and ears are open to the innovation that we believe is really out there, among people on this call and others. So Kenda, does that?
Yeah, I think that's very clear. Thanks, Will.
Will, this is Sunita here. Could I just come in here for a bit?
Please, yes, and
Yeah.
tell us who you are, because you're central to all of this.
No. I'm Sunita Karyala from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and I'm the principal investigator of IMMANA. I work with Will and several other people at the school, and SOAS and Tufts. So when Will mentioned, methods and metrics and ways of measuring, I just wanted to come in, Will, and clarify that when we describe, maybe it's just how we describe it, it comes across as quite quantitative. Something has to be measured and that it has to be some sort of an index. But what we really mean is a broad methodological perspectives and innovations or application of existing innovations of methodological ideas or metrics, ways of studying things and examining things is what we are really, and of course measuring things. So it's not just about an index or a metric, but it is about broader suite of methodological approaches as well. And therefore, for example, we are quite keen on just not statistics and epidemiology or econometrics, but also application of anthropology and history, which we actually had in one of the rounds, to issues around understanding food systems, agriculture, and nutrition and health outcomes. So just wanted to just give in a bit and give a multidisciplinary perspective to this. And the second thing, Will, maybe I will ask it as a question and maybe you could answer it, is suppose I'm a PhD student and I'm thinking of 3 papers. I only managed to complete 1 and I have the data. Could I apply for an IMMANA Fellowship to complete the other 2 papers? Which is basically, I'm asking, should I see this as a writing up of paper grant? I think there'll be a lot of questions around that. Thank you.
So it's a very typical case. Of course, the person would have had to have received the doctorate prior to beginning the fellowship. So in that instance, the individual would have completed the dissertation, obtained the doctorate, and have manuscripts in process, and would need to articulate in the 12-month work plan how they were going to use the first few months to complete that manuscript that's not yet in submission, get that in submission perhaps by the 3rd month of the fellowship year, and then move on to the next thing that would launch their career. So yes, that would be entirely plausible as a path for the 12 months.
I could also just, can you hear me now?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
This is Thalia again. I can also add just one comment about sort of innovation and newness, because we had to define that as an inclusion criteria for the synthesis project that we've done as sort of the bridge between IMMANA 1 and IMMANA 2. And there are a lot of different ways to consider that. And it doesn't have to always be, a new metric or even validation. To speak to kind of your comment, there is, I get the sense, more focus on not just developing something brand new, but also new kind of application and adoption techniques. And so innovation could mean something like that as well. And there are a lot of different aspects of newness and methodology that, as long as you as an applicant argue that very clearly, I think will be considered as innovative. So it doesn't have to be a classic validation study. It doesn't have to be, it could even be an older methodology that you're really applying to these ag nutrition pathways in a new way. And we had to consider that a lot in the evidence and gap map. And there are a lot of different ways to argue it. And the best, most clear way was when the authors themselves presented it in that way. So as an applicant, you just, make your case.
Excellent point. Yeah, thank you. So quite a few people are on the call, still muted, but might have questions. Anyone else have a thought or concern or interest?
Yeah, I have a question, actually 2 questions. My name is Laura Trijsburg. I currently work at Wageningen University in the Netherlands as a postdoc. and I am working on assessing the healthiness of the diet. And actually, I have a more global scope, and that's also where my question is about, because I see here the illustrative topics, most of them are really specific for the country. And what I actually want to do is, well, look at more a global scope. Yeah, is that something that IMMANA would be interested in? And also the question, it's really specifically mentioning that there are two institutions involved, the host and the mentor, and the other one. But I actually want to bring together also sustainability, which is not really at the institute where I'm working now, and nutrition, which is in the institute where I'm working. And that's, well, I want to actually do a validation study, but one in Africa and one in Asia. So that would actually have 4 institutes. Is that a possibility? Is there something that you can work out?
Yes, yes, definitely. So we have had shared mentorship beyond just 2. We've had 3.
Right.
We haven't yet had 4, but if there's demonstrated commitment and interest, and you've shown the ability to maneuver between that many different relationships, that's certainly possible. And regarding the multi-country, you're absolutely right. Previous rounds yielded only 1 global study, the one that's marked here, Agricultural and Trade Policy and Nutrition in 22 countries. And so we would definitely be open to other global analyses such as you described. And you know, the basic idea of what you described is certainly squarely within scope, very definitely within our goals.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, can I speak now?
Please, yes, Nitya.
Yeah. This is Nitya. I'm from India. I'm basically an agricultural economist working in the National Institute of Rural Development and Panchayati Raj. It's under the Ministry of Rural Development, and it's the top think tank for the Ministry for Rural Development. And my basic question is, since 2 years, I'm working in the IMMANA project with University of Reading. It's like energy expenditure, time use, and food intake. Actually, basically, we applied in the agricultural season in the different periods of time. Now I'm planning to propose the project in the same area, but it's in the application in the different way. Like, for example, labor productivity aspect we did not cover in that project. So now I'm applying for the same like a matrices in a different way. Is it possible for me to, like, is it okay if I apply through this IMMANA Fellowship?
Very interesting. Yes, yes. So Nitya, you're an instance of the of people who have already been involved in IMMANA grant-funded research questions, and we very much welcome the synergy that happens between the fellowship program and the grants program. So definitely encourage the kind of thing you just suggested. We do not require it, but we believe that there are a lot of synergies, and so definitely hope that that you and others who have been collaborating with the research grants. I would add that there are, beyond the IMMANA research grants, there are other closely related research projects that have collaborators who are potentially eligible. So the synergies that we're describing with your particular project on measurement of physical activity, and as you say, labor productivity and other new aspects of that haven't yet been explored, we hope that that the projects that were funded by the Gates Foundation or UK Aid or USAID, a previous person mentioned synergies with Iowa State work on funded by USAID. So definitely those are very valuable connections.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
There was actually, I realized your comment about coming to this research agenda from within government makes me realize I did not answer Kenda's question about host organizations. So Kenda said that most people on the call, except Nitya, are we're referring to university type research, and I had actually mentioned mostly research type settings, but in fact, quite a few of our fellows have been engaged in projects with either program implementing organizations, international or national NGOs, as well as local think tanks and local civil society organizations. So what are some good examples? Implementing partners for projects in Zambia. The Women's Time Use Project you see in the purple row in the middle of the slide. That was with, oh, I'm blanking on the name of the NGO, sorry. But a non-governmental implementing, an international NGO was the research partner there. And sorry, there was also a national NGO as well in that project.
Yeah, and ours is a government, but it's like a capacity building institute also. Capacity building and research is involved in this, other than like a programs of Government of India's program implementation. We are doing the capacity building and research also. Yeah. And we have the teaching also, like a post-graduation diploma in rural, post-graduation diploma in rural management.
Right.
Yeah.
But to return to Kenda's question, some individuals are in institutions that don't have all that, and we certainly welcome their participation as well, either as mentors or as fellows.
Hi everyone, this is Laura speaking. I have been a fellow for IMMANA last year, and I think it would be beneficial to clarify if there are some focus countries for the programs, or if basically any low and middle income country is eligible equally. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and there are clear, so the goal of IMMANA is to reduce the burden of undernutrition in the world, and also to avert other forms of malnutrition in all its forms, including overweight and obesity and diet-related diseases of all kinds, as well as nutrition-related factors that are not dietary, such as sanitation, physical activity, and so forth. And so we begin with the recognition that the burden of undernutrition is, of course, greatest in Africa and South Asia. And so that is the core interest of both UK Aid and the Gates Foundation supporting this. So that is why we require one of the two members to be in Africa or South Asia, or Asia generally. Could be outside South Asia. But we do not have a specific geographic targeting, either for the national origin of the fellows and mentors or for the location where research is done. We firmly believe that we are on one planet where the nutritional processes, the agriculture, and the health are the same agriculture and health that we have everywhere in the world. There's location-specific knowledge to be learned, and an application is, of course, particular to a specific thing. But we definitely want insights from everywhere in the world. So it is quite possible that candidates would have a lot of interesting insights to be learned in Latin America, in Western Asia. Those are all regions where we have not yet had applicants bringing successful ideas from. Simply because that's not where most of this work is done. So most of this work is done in Africa and South Asia, but not exclusively so.
Thanks for clarifying that.
And June, did you have a question? I see you've taken your microphone off.
Yes, hi, my name is June Po, and thank you very much for this webinar. A lot of the previous questions I had, you just answered. One was about South Asia, and my doctoral research and postdoctoral research has been in Kenya and in Vietnam. So one of my previous questions was whether Vietnam would fit into the South. It's not in South Asia, but would that be still a possible location to apply in my research proposal? So thank you for that. My second question is a follow-up on Dr. Sunita's comment about multidisciplinary perspective on how we're applying innovative methods or metrics. And I wanted to ask whether you can give a bit of examples of qualitative methods that have been successful in the IMMANA Fellowship research that perhaps was part of the IMMANA Fellowship program, and perhaps in the grant program as well, because I also look forward to the grant webinar tomorrow.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Looking for examples of qualitative findings that have been able to guide agricultural nutrition actions. I can describe the history project, which is the most extreme qualitative, right? Where the candidate who proposed a study of agricultural nutrition linkages in Lesotho was able to bring forward the specific example of local agricultural practices that were championed by a specific local farmer, entrepreneur, individual who identified, in the context of a country that was experiencing a epidemic of pellagra because of having diets that were extremely reliant on polished maize, dehulled maize, white maize flour, and how policymakers and governments responded to that. So that is purely narrative history. It is about what specifically happened in the early 20th century in one very small country. We believe that it's the kind of work that could potentially guide agricultural nutrition actions by providing a story, right, a narrative history that people could say, this is kind of similar in some ways to what happened in Lesotho in the 1920s and 30s and 40s. I would point to another example of a kind of qualitative work. I don't know, I would think that the visual diaries approach to where trying to measure diets is so difficult, but using the visual diaries was a helpful tool. That does aim to ultimately have a quantitative outcome, whereas the historical narrative is entirely committed to language as the only dissemination, no number, no hypothesis test. So I think there's a continuum there. We clearly recognize that between the purely narrative qualitative work and the more numerical work, the quantification ultimately ends up having a kind of different kind of impact. So there's a natural way in which most of our work, most of our time is on the quantitative side, but the qualitative and narrative understanding is absolutely central to guide that. So I hope we've got the balance about right. And it's entirely possible. So it's entirely possible that we'll be shifting. I would also emphasize that within every project, there's a balance of qualitative and quantitative. So one of the things that's really confusing is that we don't see how much qualitative kind of pre-search in the sense of formative research lies behind each quantitative exercise. So behind every quantitative analysis, there is a qualitative judgment about what to measure and why. So I hope that somewhat answers the question.
Yes.
And that each of you would be able to, in your proposals, well, first your concept notes, but then your proposals, articulate both the qualitative and the quantitative aspects of what you hope to do.
Thank you. Thank you.
So others who've not yet chimed in, Victor, I see you took your mute off. Please.
Yes.
Yes, very keen.
Yes, let me apologize for joining late. Yes, my name is Victor. I'm from Ghana. I work at the University for Development Studies. It's located up north at the northern part of Ghana. I have interest in nutrition, education, obesity, and diabetes. I would like to find out whether you accept systematic reviews. I will allow to present a concept note on that, on a systematic review. And then I also, upon reading the information, I saw that there was much emphasis on metrics and then something like trying to validate a tool. So is it that in all the work that somebody will be submitting, is it a matter that there should be something about either trying to validate a tool or trying to develop a new tool? Yeah, so that is just what I want to find out.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent questions. Thank you. Thank you. So trying to develop a new tool would be, I think, impossible within the time frame. As Liz said earlier, you know, there's only 12 months in these fellowships, and so starting from zero to create a new tool is beyond the scope of what can be accomplished. And clearly you have to have a lot already done and then one more step of novelty in this work. Whether that step of novelty could be in a systematic review depends very much on the nature of the review. So simply conducting a systematic review in the traditional style to obtain the average effect of something over the studies that you do a meta-analysis for, that would not be competitive because it would not meet the aims of the program. On the other hand, I could imagine bibliometric analyses or analyses of project or program data that are systematic reviews in the sense that they're studies of documents, that the analysis is an analysis of published or unpublished documentary evidence, and you're doing bibliometrics, you're doing analysis of the words in the abstracts or the titles, you're doing analysis of the content of the text. I could imagine innovative methods and metrics for ag nutrition actions that are like that, right? Where you would study something about program and project activity or policy activity that's a secondary analysis where the data are just documents. But a standard systematic review of, say, the effect of eggs on child health or something like that, or in your case, if you're working on emergence of diabetes and obesity in Ghana, a standard systematic review of that literature would probably not be successful because it wouldn't have enough enough demonstrated potential to advance the specific aims of IMMANA. It might be a really good project, just not for IMMANA.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, but my second question was about whether I think you answered to that one, the one about trying to validate a tool or to develop a tool. I think
yeah, so definitely validation is the more
yeah. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And others on have not yet introduced themselves or said anything about their work. Jennifer, you've taken the mic off, the mute off, if you'd like to introduce yourself or others. Gifty or Callistus or Alicia, I think you're still muted, but you might have questions, comments.
William, I have a question.
Please.
Yeah, in that fellowship, it's mentioned that 500 words, like a project abstract.
For the concept note, yes.
Yeah, for the concept note. We need to brief about the project, or because they mentioned like describe about the work with the mentor and home and host mentors to improve and apply validation and other things.
Yeah.
Can you brief about that, how that concept note should be?
Yeah, so typically the concept note would say, what is the question you're trying to answer, in the sense of what is the method or metric that you're investigating, and the data that you expect to have available, and the method you would use to do this validation or application. And that might take, 3 to 5, 7 sentences of explanation, followed by the home and host mentors who would be able to support you in doing that. So 500 words is about a full page, roughly. And it should be possible to divide that, into perhaps 4 paragraphs, where you're saying what is the question, the topic, the method or metric, the motivation, why you're doing this work. What are the, so that would be paragraph 1. In other words, motivation, why are you doing this work? What is it that you aim to accomplish? What is its importance or significance? And then the second paragraph would be what specific data and methods would you be able to bring to this question? And then the third and fourth would be about the setting, the mentorship relationships, the institutional opportunities that you have to advance this work particularly well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is Rob Cole. Can you hear me?
Yes, thanks very much. Yes.
Yeah, hi. So I'm talking from the UK, but I'm just getting to the end of my PhD, which is based at the National University of Singapore. And I've been studying transition from subsistence to commercially based farming in northern Laos and the social outcomes of that. And so what I'd quite like to do beyond that is to also look at the nutrition outcomes. So the topic of this call is actually exactly on what I'm hoping to do. My question is, so I'm still under contract with my university for the next 4 months or so, but beyond that, it's not so clear. So I'm kind of in limbo between finishing a PhD and starting a longer term position. So is it still possible to have somebody at the institution where my PhD is based to be the home mentor? Or do I need to be in a permanent position with that institution?
No, what you described is entirely within the design intent of the program. So the home mentor could easily be someone with whom you, by the time you start, you would have worked in the past.
Great. Okay, that's good.
Yes, that's entirely within the design intent. Yes.
Okay, and one other small detail. I just wanted, what sort of time of year does the ANH week happen normally?
So the June, yeah.
Yeah, it's the last week in June or first week in July, just depending on how the calendar falls, is just about what it is. This coming year in 2020, it will be the week that overlaps June and July. So I believe that's June 29th through July 3rd.
Great.
And every week, just sort of somewhere around that time. Sorry, excuse me, every year.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So thank you, Rob. And Alicia, Callistus, or Gifty, do you have comments? Who else has not yet introduced themselves, asked questions?
Hello, I am Callistus.
Hello, Callistus.
Thank you for this wonderful webinar. It's been quite informative. I think the questions I had have been asked by others, and adequately answered. So I'm just grateful for your responses and clarifications.
Good. There is a written question from one participant asking about they could propose a pilot study based on data they collected during their PhD. So they collected already data from a small sample, and they would want to expand that. And that would definitely be within scope and intent of this program. In other words, if you already had some data that you wanted in the course of the year to collect some additional, that would be very, very welcome. Very appropriate.
Hello.
This kind of opportunity. Yes.
Hi, this is June again. I would like to ask a follow-up question based on Rob Cole's question about home institution. I'm in a situation where my home institution will be possibly changing in the new year. And if I, so when I am writing up the concept note, I will be focusing on the mentors in the home institution currently, but as the timeline would match up, my home institution may change, and into my next appointment. And so how is that going to work with naming the home mentor, or should I name the home mentor as someone in my next home institution?
Excellent question. Excellent question. You could do either one. The choice would be based on what you think is going to be most productive during the fellowship year. So looking forward, who would be the person who could, first of all, write the letter of support for the proposal that convincingly demonstrates that they can provide the mentorship that's most helpful to the kind of work you want to do. And secondly, during the fellowship year, be the supporting person. Our use of the term home and host is very loose. It's intended to convey the idea that you're going somewhere. It's intended to convey the idea that you're building on something. It's intended to convey the idea that you have a place you're coming from and a place you're going to, and that there's individuals there who care about your project and will support you. So it does not literally mean the institution where you are working during the fellowship year. Our home and host mentors have been a wide range of combinations of people, and could even be both in the same country, just in different disciplines or different institutions, or somehow some other way offering you the interdisciplinary and interinstitutional collaboration that is the hallmark of good science. Because all good discovery comes from combining things, and so these home and host mentors are people who will help combine data and methods.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Hi, this is Laura again. I just wanted to quickly mention, because someone was talking about pilot data already being available and then trying to expand the data collection. I think one thing that's very important to consider is if all the regulatory aspects are in place. So if you just start working on your IRB application when you've already received the fellowship, it will probably not be able to be done in time.
Very important point. Thank you, Laura. Yes. So a big part of the research process is ethical review. And I think Laura's comment was extremely clear and on point about that. A related factor is that Tufts, as the administrator of the program, is responsible for recruiting applicants, managing the selection process, and then supporting fellows during the fellowship year and beyond. We are not the conducting ethical reviews of your study. We're not providing mentorship in the sense of the home and host mentor. But in a pinch, we can, but it would have to be a really exceptional case. The reason is that the ethical reviews should be done by the institution that has responsibility for your work. That would be your employer, that would be the institution that governs where the research is to be done. So IRBs are increasingly done by a national ethical review board in the country where you're working, or in the institution in a developing country. So having Tufts be your IRB would be inappropriate in almost all cases, because Tufts is not responsible for the people in the place where you're working. If you're working in Malawi, you need one of the Malawian IRBs to be responsible for ethics of work done in Malawi. We cannot say what's ethical in Malawi. We can only say what's ethical for Tufts employees. So in an extreme circumstance, we can do IRB for an individual, but as Laura said, almost always you would have to have already begun that process in order to be successful within the project year.
Sorry, I just wanted to make a small clarification. I asked the question not planning to collect new data during the course of the fellowship period, because I understand the time wouldn't even be enough. But I was just wondering, because the sample of people from which I collected the data that I already have is not like a very large quantitative sample. So what's usually present in a quantitative study, because it was part of a mixed method PhD, but I do have the dietary data, and I do have ideas for some kind of validating of the healthiness of a diet using different matrices and tools. But because the sample size is relatively small, I was wondering if it would make sense, because I am planning to propose it as a pilot validation study, so to speak, the results of which could inform a larger study, which I wouldn't necessarily be carrying out, but would inform practice of a larger study or something like that. So that's basically what I was just asking about. Does it make sense, even though the sample is not quite as extensive, because it came from a larger mixed method study?
Excellent. Yes, Carolyn, thanks for clarifying. Sorry, I misunderstood what you had written in the chat box earlier, but definitely it is possible for very informative, useful studies to be done with small samples. You could use the term pilot. The concern of small samples, of course, is that the research is of limited validity, either in terms of internal validity or external validity, just because of that. So you'd want to think about to what question is your small sample the answer. And sometimes you would be saying this is a pilot because it allows us to conduct a larger study. And the classic value of a small sample pilot is that it gives you the variance and the effect size with which to do your power calculation for a larger study. That's sort of the classical meaning of a pilot research, is that it enables you to do the power calculation for a larger study. But honestly, there's many other ways in which a small sample could be really valuable. So your mixed methods work could very well be something you would propose for a fellowship follow-on year, either using the language of a pilot study or using other ways of describing the research discoveries you can make with your small sample. So don't be discouraged by having a small sample, because you can simply be asking, to what question are the data that I have actually able to answer? And you may find some really useful insights that are very publishable and could have high impacts, even though the sample is small. Good, so thanks very much for joining, everybody. There's a couple of people who have not yet introduced themselves or asked any questions. Gifty or Alicia, do you have any thoughts? I think Jennifer has not yet asked any questions. If you have anything you'd like to say to the group now, be very keen to hear from you. Good, well, thanks so much for joining. We'll have this recording on the website so others can watch. I think your questions were all extremely thoughtful and helpful, and we're very keen to hear from you also individually. Please definitely upload a concept note through the portal, and then we'll have the full application form up there as well very soon. Thanks so much for joining now. Look forward to hearing more from you as the weeks go by. Thanks so much.